Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori La Bey, and I'm really excited today because we have a wonderful guest with us, somebody close to my heart because he is part of our Memory Cafe, and I will be introducing you to David here shortly. But for those of you that are new to Alzheimer's Speaks, basically we are an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort around the world. You see, my mom had dementia for 30 years, changed my life, changed my career, and all I want to do is to help connect people to services, products, and tools and real practices that work. And the only way we can do that is by having a conversation and being inclusive of everybody. So today we are going to be talking with David Weatherford, and he is 55 years old. And he is married to Andrea for 27 years, and they have 3 boys. Curtis, 25, Nicholas, 18, and Jacob, who is 15. Now, David got diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia, which is known as FTD, in September of 2017, so not very long ago. And he was self-employed from 1992 to 2009. And after that, he was a building engineer at Egan High School from 2009 to 2017. And when dementia hits, your life changes. And so welcome, David. I'm just thrilled to have you on the show with us today.
Thank you.
I always, ask everybody who's a guest on our show, if they've been touched by dementia, and needless to say, you have been, very personal.
Yes.
Front and center there. So can you tell us a little bit about, your journey? How did you come to know that you had dementia?
I guess a lot of it goes with my wife because she's the closest one to me. She started noticing changes, and a lot of this, my perspective and seeing how we noticed has a little bit of reflection involved in it. But what it was is things in normal situations, she noticed I didn't have I was always calm, cool, and collective, I guess. And I was having more, things were stressing me more. And as I tell a lot of people, and they think it's pretty much a normal marriage thing, but I was kind of getting to this feeling where, she's always nagging me and I'm always a jerk, and that dynamic was causing a lot of rift, and I couldn't explain it. And we were just having a lot of miscommunication. We weren't on the same page, and she just thought I should see my regular doctor. And, we did some not antidepressant, but anxiety type medicine. And we tried that for a while, and there seemed to be a little bit of a difference, but yet it seemed to be more short-lived, and there was something more, and we were wondering if it's like ADD is in my family, some sort of attention deficit thing or something. So then the doctor thought the best way to, because I'm asking if there's just like ADD testing, and he thought, we're a very good family doctor, he thought the best way would be to do a neuropsychological evaluation, because that way it'll just do the whole gamut of things. So we could, you'll have a much better picture of what's going on. And so I was tested, and I got the results, and, day later I didn't have a job. I mean, it kind of went that quick, but it was about 3 years prior that my wife says we noticed things, and we tried that. So it was probably about 2 years trying anxiety medicine, maybe back and forth with doses. But then eventually we did that testing and got the results, and that's when everything changed.
It's not uncommon a lot of times with FTD, people say, we thought we were going to get divorced because of the miscommunication, and, it is. Is this just kind of a marriage thing?
Yeah, I had that a lot when explaining this to people and telling the story just right away when it happens. I can't tell you how many times I heard the comment, sounds like marriage to me. because that, well, I do that all, gee, maybe I have it, because trying to describe it so people understand was, it was just the same things. It's like, well, everybody has this problem. Everybody has that kind of problem, but it was just the intensity, and it really takes someone close that you're with day to day to notice. Because my wife and I even say now, because I, when I'm not here or, with it out in public or meeting even with some other family that you only visit, they don't see so much of a change. But yet day to day and the little struggles in the evening before you're going to bed, or just, waking up in the morning, maybe some of those challenges, they're not seen. So everyone's like, well, I don't see a problem with David. He seems the same to me. So we're having trouble that way. And yes, if it weren't for the strong commitment on both of us, and I really, my wife, Andrea, is just steadfast. Divorce isn't an option. We made a commitment, and I felt the same way, that, no matter how tough the trail gets, as long as I'm working and she's working toward that harmony, we were in it together, and that's really just wasn't an option. So that mindset probably saved us from that
Yeah.
that part.
Well, and that's nice because, not everybody has that steadfast, I can't say the word,
Yeah.
that ability to stay together. I'll put it that way. And so it's tough. It's tough stuff.
Right.
Did you even know what FTD was? Did you have?
No, I had no idea. And it's interesting because I went in for the testing, or went in to get the results of the testing. And this is from the neuropsychologist, not the neurologist. So they're just telling you what they kind of found, but it's up to the neurologist to say, yes, you have this. They kind of but I did get a report in the testing, and oh Jesus, slipped the question. And so, oh yeah, she was telling me some of the things, and we were explaining some of the moods. And before I actually saw the neurologist, and in between that time of getting the results and seeing the neurologist, we were online doing what everyone does, and searching out these different things and different words she used in that results. And I'm like, oh, that's me. I pointed, I'm like, Andrea, come look at this. And you look at the symptoms, and it's like, yes, all those. I mean, to some degree. So I kind of had a little feeling, but then we got the official tag, and it was just like, she's like, well, you can't work because of what my position was. And that was really like, wow. I mean, it was just so, well, can I work 3 more days to kind of wrap up my job, kind of at least get it ready for the next person? And so that was fine. But yeah, my job ended just that fast.
Wow.
And that was tough.
Wow, that's a big loss, because so much of who we are is what we do.
Right.
And that goes away like that. That's
and what was even level. To add to it is and it was the job position I was in. A lot of times guys go on to be building chiefs, or run that part of the school. And I had finally stopped trying to go for those goals, and I was really in the last 2 or 3 years settling into that's going to be my position till I retire, and was really at a comfort level as far as employment and everything, where when you're self-employed, you never have that comfort. So that was tough.
So when you heard the words from the doctor, do you remember what you felt or what your reaction was at the time?
I'm very, when I get bad news, and what it's really funny is actually one of the words that was used that I guess my wife and I joke about now is when she was giving us the test results, and you're reading about their observations, is she thought I seemed jovial was the word. And that's just kind of I heard it and I understood it, but I mean, it was I don't have a traumatic, oh my God, I didn't burst into tears or think my life was over. It's just I felt the same 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after the news. So I don't have that. I'm just taking it in as far as, okay, so what does it mean? What's going to happen? And I just had more questions, really. I really didn't, just kind of moving forward. I guess it's it is what it is kind of been my philosophy a lot in life. So I guess I just felt, okay, now what? Now what? Now what? More information. Who should I see? What should we do? I mean, it just kind of was almost a natural reaction, just like your car breaking down on the freeway. Okay, it's broke. What do I got to do?
Yep. How did your wife react to the news?
Well, and that was one of the things too, is that she heard it, and she's had a lot of friends, or she had some close friends that were diagnosed. So she had a little bit closer experience with dementia and Alzheimer's than I had. And she heard the news and she started crying. And I'm kind of surprised by that. But I mean, I comforted her a little, but I'm like, wait a minute. In a way I felt, why are you crying? But I mean, I understood it. She's very sentimental. She's very strong, but yet, lets her emotions be seen. She doesn't hold back her emotions, and she's very strong and just an awesome caregiver for me. Took me the first year to get to that place, because there were still some battles after the diagnosis. I mean, I was trying to set everything up, but yet there were still some things that, it kind of a power shift in the family, really, from me taking care of a lot of things to her taking care of a lot of things, and her wanting to know everything that I used to take care of that she used to just, David deals with that. And so she was trying to set up herself to be a caregiver and handle everything, to just take all that load off of me, which I was fine with, but yet apparently not, because it did cause some, cause some bumps in the road to get where actually I am now, and have been since about September, as far as a real comfort level, really coming to terms with what I have and how my life is going to be from this day forward.
Well, it's always hard. I mean, if you're changing a job or you've got a diagnosis, when those roles shift, there's always that mucky water of, how do I do this, and how is it done respectfully, and and how am I prepared, and yet not stripping somebody of their purpose at the same time. And nobody knows what they don't know. This is all new water on both sides of the bridge there for you. Now, did you tell your kids right away?
But I don't know if probably as soon as we know. I think we would spread the diagnosis. Heck, I had the little letter and I was showing it all around work, like, how's it going, David? Well, this is what I got, and you can't work here anymore, the administration and the staff, and I'd watch everyone's reaction. And no, I'm pretty sure we'd let the kids know right away. We didn't try and hide anything. It's, Dad's got this, as you know. I mean, they see us every day. They know how it is at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's bumpier than normal, or if it's a real smooth, lovey-dovey phase, they see it. So they kind of know what's going on in the house. So if there's something that we had a reason or an explanation of why something was going on, I'm sure we share it right away. I mean,
yeah.
They took it. I mean, they're boys, so they're like, yeah, okay. I mean, it was hard to say, because they don't see that big a change, or the change has been so subtle, that they just don't notice it, that they're involved in their life. They're teenagers, and young, they're in their lives. So that, it's like, oh, Dad has this. Oh, what does that mean? I mean, and we don't even know. So, the statistics, and you can say that, and that can be wow, but I don't know, I was a lot more concerned about, life, because they say anyone with this diagnosis has, averages like, what is it, 5 to 10 years, usually it's terminal. I mean, they do say it's a terminal disease, and most are with 5 to 10 years, but then they span anywhere from 2 to 20. And I kind of, I go back and forth with, like, oh my God, it's going to end. And the other thing is, I just, in talking with my wife, I joke with her, like, well, I'm going to go 20 just to be a pain. You're not getting out easy. I'm going to go 20 just to be a pain in the butt. We joke that way. We use humor a lot to get through this stuff, and it feels good to laugh. So,
well, that's good. I know with, my mom had it for 30, and, they were saying 7, maybe 11 years.
Right.
But nowadays they say most people have symptoms 15 years prior, and you probably caught yours earlier on.
That's what they're tending to think.
Yep. And so right now on Dementia Chats, I mean, we have Harry Urban, I believe, has been living with his dementia 15 years, and Truthful Loving Kindness, I think she said 20.
Okay.
And they're still participating and very, very much, advocates for the cause and outspoken. And, they're adapting as things change, but that's what we do in all of life. We adapt.
Right. Yep.
That's what makes us human, with that. So, well, good. I appreciate you sharing, because it's always an interesting process. Now, I did a film last night. We did a screening, and a gentleman came up to me afterwards and said, I've got to mention, I haven't told my friends yet. A couple of them know. Should I tell them? I'm thinking after this film I should tell them. He said, well, that's a real personal thing, because some people really hide that and
Right.
are very open. How did you handle that?
You know what? In some situations, of course, if you're at, my son was playing hockey at the time, and just in those situations, it's like you're close to these people. So not that I'd ever hide it, but, you kind of a little bit more delicate is just when you tell them. But no, we were very open about it. I mean, I would just mention it, or, even some of the ones you tell a few, but you don't have a chance to tell everybody. And then I assume there's a certain amount of grapevine gossip going on. So I got to the point where, like, now you heard, right? And they're like, heard what? And so I'd say about my, I had a diagnosis, and they'd be like, no, or yeah. And I'd say, do you have any questions? I mean, I would just, open. I mean, I'd go right out there and tell them. I wasn't afraid. I mean, that's never bothered me. It's like, I have what I have. I am what I am. I mean, I've always kind of been that way, as far as just, it's easier to be a little more open about stuff than it is to hide it all and worry. And I don't know. I'd rather they know and get comfortable with it, so I don't have that. There's always a little bit of weirdness at first, because people don't know how to treat you, but then eventually it's just who you are, and you're back to every day, and nobody's really thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good attitude to have. There's so much fear. A lot of times, some friends and even some families sometimes will back away when someone's diagnosed. And, that can happen anytime in our life. And it routinely does, if our friends change and stuff. And so then you just kind of got to align with who works for you now,
One of the toughest things, and for my wife and for me, and especially me going through it, and I said that first year was rough, is that my side of the family all lives in the Detroit, Michigan area. So you tell them the news, and then you do a visit or something, and they, an hour, 2 hours, they're with you, and you're catching up on things, and you're also talking about the diagnosis, but they don't see it. That was that whole, they don't see it. Well, you seem normal to me. Did you get a second opinion? They have all these questions, like in a doubt. And it's, and it was tough, because my wife was like, I'm living this. Okay. I mean, this isn't something we just kind of went to the doctor. He said, you had this and it's over, and we're assuming that. So that's been tough, and it's still tough for them as far as support, because they think they understand it, or they Google a few things online, but with everyone being different in this disease the way it is, I think you kind of need to know the person's personality, and then you'll see the changes, or you'll see their difficulties in certain areas. In some areas, I mean, it becomes very obvious to everyone in my family, and it comes as a surprise to me sometimes when they give me feedback, like, you were really hot, and I always say, well, gee, I wasn't angry. I was kind of mad at the situation, but I wanted something to happen, so I kind of am almost letting myself be angry. But that gets tough too, because they, David was really, he seemed to be, extremely hot at that situation, and I'll hear about it, and I'll go, well, I know I was angry, but I wanted to make an impact. So it just gets tough having it with people's reactions that way. Because they start reading every little thing you do and why. And sometimes it's enlightening and it helps me, and other times it's like you were looking at it, too intensely, with too much thought and too much of a microscope. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I think sometimes people look at it and they blame everything on dementia.
Right.
And when you're an open book and you're out there, that's who you've always been.
Right.
It's like, well, don't start. That's just me. That's my personality.
When you say that, that makes me think of the thought that yes, I've always been kind of one who says a little more open, and that maybe that part of certain parts of my personality, like that David will say anything thing, becomes a little more intense or a little more than it was. It goes up in degree as opposed to just staying where it was. So it's like my personality, some of those aspects that made me are now amplified, but maybe if you go too high, they can be annoying. It's like, so I got to be conscious of it, that I can't always say, I got to be careful. I try and use my screen a little more and my filter, because sometimes I say things sometimes in my head to myself to see if that's maybe really the appropriate thing. I'm a lot more conscious than I used to be, but I think I'm still the same out there and put everything out there, and people don't notice that it's actually that mentally strenuous for me.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a really good point that you just brought up about, you're trying to self-monitor, because with dementia, some filters do go by the wayside. And
Right.
so then you have to really be conscious of things that you weren't before. You were just kind of talking,
Yep.
it was a hidden thing. And what people don't understand, I think, about dementia is how hard a person with dementia has to work sometimes to fit
Right.
in, because they are trying to self-monitor without letting anyone else know,
Right.
what's going on. And that's, I mean, when I have to do that, that's exhausting. And to think that I'd have to do that 24/7, if we can if we can get some compassion and empathy behind that, it's like, holy craps, that's a lot of work. That's a lot.
And again, my wife is really good at that. And she, if there's a wedding or, some of those bigger social events, I'm okay, but I let her know, it's like I might not be there the full 5 hours, maybe only the 3. I mean, some of those situations, or even when we're running errands, going from Target to Walgreens to, the mall to blah, blah, I can only do so much. And then it kind of almost shuts me down for the day. I'm just like, my head is jammed up and my brain is and I just almost, and what's, at least I have found something, and she does a support group. And for me, what really works, and I've always loved it, but I just need to sit in front of the TV and just be there. And it's a relaxing, calming, safe, I don't know, it doesn't require much mental energy on my part. And that seems to be something that's how I kind of retreat to. I don't retreat to a book. I don't just go lay down. I just want to sit in front of the TV and something that's somewhat familiar, something I enjoy or something like that. And that works for me. And my wife at her FTD support group has some that works for some of the patients, people with FTD as she talks to, but others it doesn't. And some of them have complained that all their husband wants to do is watch TV, but on that same aspect, somebody will say, well, you're lucky, that's all. He's happy in front of the TV. Mine wants to run around and talk to everybody or something. So I guess it's finding what little niche or what calming mechanism or what is relaxation to the person with the dementia.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of people with dementia, especially with FTD, that say that they wear headsets when they go out in public, just so it's noise canceling, because all that extra jibber jabber that's going around, and that helps them last out in public a little bit longer, because that really throws them for a loop. And sometimes it can be the lighting and the change, or the colors and the carpeting and the patterns, and all these things can come into play that people don't realize are affecting somebody with dementia.
Yeah, I have all kinds of new little experiences like that. Like sometimes where there's lots of big screen TVs and certain motion, it's like a brain overload, or I can't do this, or if I'm watching, I have a little bit of a vertigo, and I even get the feeling now seeing high things or views from high places on TV. or it's that perspective type where they're showing, somebody with a GoPro's doing something crazy. And it's like I almost can feel myself losing balance and weird sensations that way. So I can understand that's interesting about the input, because I'm wondering if down the road I might be there with those headphones, because I could see where that gets too much. I mean, certain music I can't listen to. I can listen to familiar music, but new music just, it doesn't calm me or feel good. It almost makes my head hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and some will say that they can't hear certain tones anymore, and so that makes a difference in terms of what they listen to. Or if they used to like big bands, they can't take all of the instruments. They need like just piano or just guitar, because it's too much stimulation for them to sort out and then put back together. And so these are things that most people don't understand, how hard you have to work at to an environment to adjust in. And, those are things that we have to tell people more about, what you're hearing and what you're seeing. And
yeah, my wife and I were just talking in the car, just like, I hope you don't mind that I do a lot of thinking about how I'm feeling and, situations, and I try and communicate with her a lot about, that was a lot for me. Boy, I was really struggling, or, hey, I was wondering, maybe when I did this is why. And so I'm always looking at my actions and looking at things and feeling. I analyze myself a lot, and that's probably my personality more so than anything. So that's part of it, but it is interesting, and it's eye-opening to me too. So I don't know much. I figure it's a good thing. Yep. And then if I can express it to other people, maybe that'll help too.
Yeah, I remember doing an intensive workshop, was for a Wisconsin group. And one of the things I did was I interviewed a person with dementia. And this gal was lovely, and she used to talk to the group every year. And she's like, but this is what I talk about. And I said, I'd really like you to talk on a different topic. And I said, so if you'll just bear with me, and for 2 days, I just want you to think about all of your senses and have things changed in terms of what you see, what you feel, what you hear. And she was really shocked. And we did this interview process, and we only had 20 minutes, but professionals that had been in the business for 20 and 30 years said that was the best session ever, because we didn't know how much their environment had changed for them. And it got people to understand, even in terms of approaching somebody, how to do that, and the why behind it. And it was quite fascinating, and even taste and smell,
right,
how things had changed, with the disease. And she thought at first, well, no, it really hasn't affected me. And then she got back 2 days later and said, oh, it's really changed. and because you just normally adapt, and we don't know how to do that deep dive and stuff. So, monitoring those types of things and telling people around you what's happening, I think can be super, super powerful, super, super powerful with that. Can you tell us, I know you guys just went through a move. And how did that go, and why did you decide to make the move?
Well, that whole getting all your ducks in a row, powers of attorney and medical powers of attorney and all that stuff, and trying to just set yourself up for when maybe since you don't know the timetable, we're trying to cram all this stuff in, try and take care of it right away to get all the ducks in a row, to start everything moving in the toward, and with the idea or the perspective that, I'll be incapable of doing anything, I'll be bedridden and incapable in 2 years, even though that's probably unrealistic, but to kind of look at it that way, like, let's just get it all done so we're not dragging this out and a new thing keeps popping up. And while I'm alert and seem like I feel normal, I mean, like, and I'm still able to understand, I mean, I could still probably do the taxes on TurboTax, but that's something I'd let go. But, you know, it'd be more frustrating for me now. That's all. But I still have a lot of capabilities and a lot of knowledge and stuff. So, and understanding. I mean, even when we meet with lawyers or other people, I mean, my wife does it one way, I learn another way. And when we talk on the end, I mean, I'm saying no, this, and she's like, okay, and she understands. And so that's why we wanted to get all that in line. But that was also hard for me, and not realizing it at the time, but looking back and probably why we still kind of have that rub going on that first year, is that my role is changing in the family. I'm now, I mean, in a laughing way, I'm one of the kids. I mean, she's going to take on, you know, all the responsibilities in that. And so that was difficult. But, you know, the move, it was, again, one of those decisions to get in the ducks in the row. I don't want to be doing outside, have to take care of the lawn. The kids are moving out anyway, you know, and if I can't get into a spot, so we were particular about the type of, we moved to a townhome, wanted to make sure that I maybe had a space that if I lost some mobility and stuff, I could get into the place, have a living room, have a bedroom, have a bathroom without having to go up and down stairs or negotiate some of those things that would be more difficult with, you know, if I was wheelchair bound or unable to really move very well. Because we don't know. So we're in a way preparing for the worst to the best we can and being real at the same time. Moving also, I was at the time driving. Lots of people say don't drive. Over the summer, part of FTD, I have a behavioral variant, which means I'm losing the capacity to, the frontal lobe is going, and that's what you want your teenager to develop. So he has some logic and reason. And so I'm losing that. So my judgment can be a little, you know, clouded or just not as sharp as it used to be. So I'm like a Benjamin Button thing where I'm reverting and you know, so I made some poor decisions and life choices over the summer. It doesn't really matter what they are, but they were adolescent in nature and that. And the neurologist and my wife decided it was best that if I didn't drive anymore. And though it was tough, it's like I heard that and it's just like, I can drive. But I just said, you know, do what we need to do. And that's okay. If that's what you feel best, I understand. I mean, I was real about it. And I want to say what a blessing and how that has helped. That one instant has made a huge change in my perspective of everything. For one thing, I became a little more dependent on people for mobility, but on that same aspect, I was able to discover my bicycle. There's a certain amount of freedom I got by not being able to drive, because then I don't feel like I can do things that require a car. I mean, as far as stores or projects, I mean, I was as a contractor, so I'm always trying to do something. I mean, I love Menards and Home Depot and all those places, and just it slows me down because I was a real go after it. I mean, I ran my own business, and even when I was working for the school district, I always took ownership in what I was doing, like it was mine, you know. So I take a lot. So getting that part of my personality and that do it now, let's fix it, go, boom, why, okay, what are we doing? Yeah, what do we need to do? And I hit hard. I go hard and fast. And so that's had to slow me down a little bit and give me perspective by not being able to drive, a little more planning, not such an urgency in day-to-day life. And that has really been a blessing. I don't know how else to say it. It slowed me down. I mean, I still get a little anxious and like, oh, I want to get this done. But I also know that it may not happen today or tomorrow. And I put it on my wife's radar. And then she does her best to help me, because she knows that that's driving me or that's in the back of my head. But it's shelved, but it's right there, you know, waiting for the opportunity. So, again, that's really been helpful for me. And I really enjoy riding my bike. And like I said, it's almost like it's like a dream. I go riding and I'm free. I don't have a responsibility, nowhere to be. I've been able to enjoy that part of life and just see different things. I mean, it's a lot different riding all the bike paths than it is driving a car as far as what you see and where you are. I mean, Google Maps will chart you a course for a bike path instead of the roads. I mean, there's little things that I'm learning and enjoying that just are that I didn't see were there, and it's all because driving was taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's forced me in a way. It really steered me in that direction to slow down, take a look at what you got, understand it, and operate with it. Because I guess driving is such a part of our lives that, I mean, you talk to anybody, how am I going to survive without a car? And until you do, or you have to, you realize it's not so bad. I mean, Christmas was great. I got saddlebags for my bike. I got a light. I got a thing that holds my cell phone. I mean, it's like I just embraced that and made that like that's the only option I have. So I'm going to maximize that option. I guess that's how that part anyway.
Well, that's a great way to look at things, though. And, those are both the changing the house and the driving. Those are two massively huge changes in your life. And I like how you two are really approaching this from a proactive standpoint and allowing you to still be involved in those choices, while you can be.
Right.
I think that makes so much sense. A lot of times people will wait to make a move, and then when they make the move, a person with dementia is so far down the line that it's really difficult. And then now all of a sudden they have to be placed someplace because it's thrown for a loop.
Yeah, moving's always upsetting to anybody. I mean, there's some sort of upsettingness to it. I mean, you're up. And so, doing that has been helpful. I mean, it's still, you kind of long for your old house or something. But I mean, it was just, and I love it. I mean, now I'm in a townhome. I'm not worrying about the snow, but I can shovel if I want to and make it a little better. I mean, I can just do the little things, but I don't feel the pressure or the obligation to do so much. Yeah. And that's been the biggest adjustment for me because I'm a people pleaser, get it done, take charge person. And I've had to step back from that. And that's where most of the conflict between me and my wife comes is that shifting of power. It really does. And I hate the word power, but just shifting of responsibilities. So.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense as well, with all of that. And it's, you seem to really understand, the process and have reflected on it and had conversations on it, which is so healthy. A lot of couples don't. And so I give you guys kudos for that. What do you think has been your biggest hurdle through this process so far?
The driving actually was the biggest hurdle. I think that was, I was resistant. I did an evaluation where I was, actually she thought I did so well in the, what do they call it? The clinical or whatever study where you're in an office basically doing all these tests that she didn't even bother with a road test. She's like, well, I just don't see a reason why. And so then I'm thinking, then I'm more empowered I can keep driving. And so, but like I said, that was the biggest hurdle. And I guess the other hurdle for me is I've always been the helper, and now I'm the helpee. Everyone's helping me, and I have a lot of guilt feelings about being helped. Someone drive me here. Can someone drive me here? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Because I've always been like I said, I've always been the helper. I would drop anything. Kind of my nature and my wife, we kind of are more outward, go and help everybody. And being what I did in contracting and just my skill set lends itself well to help lots of people. Construction, mechanical, automobile. I just have a mechanical aptitude, not really schooled in it, just kind of natural and life experience that I've always helped people do everything. And I enjoyed it. It's not like it's always been a headache for me. It's like I enjoy that I'm able to help them and make their lives easier. And it's a lot of it's family, but it's also friends. And I love to save money. So if I can help them save money, it makes me feel good too. So, it was a lot of it made me feel good to help people. So that, like I said, that, and it's just, now I'm not doing that. I'm accepting more help. I still help people, but then I still need help to help people, if that makes any sense.
Well, you know what's so interesting with what you just said, and this is common, and I've been through it myself, is, I'm always one who, I like my options. I like to help people as well, and I don't like to receive help. And yet I get such great joy out of helping people. And so by me not accepting help is taking that away from somebody else.
Right.
And so, but I think we've been taught, especially here in America, that we're supposed to be independent and it's supposed to be like this, and, and I want to look weak. And no, it's about being part of a community. It's about being part of a family. And that's what we should be doing for one another.
Yeah, I was on that same topic. I was getting a ride from my sister-in-law. She was taking me from one end of town to the other. And I was just expressing how I feel guilty that you have to drive. It was later in the night, like probably a Sunday night or something, that you got to take me all the way home, 45-minute drive. And she's like, I said, I feel bad. And she's like, why? You did this for me. You did this. She listed like 5 things. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't count. I like doing that. She's like, you can't be the judge of that. You don't get to do that. And we laughed at it, and it actually helped a lot. That was my sister-in-law, and it was just, and when I have these situations where I talk to people about that, about how I'm feeling about them helping me, they express like, well, you've done this, and it does help me get some perspective in it all. As far as, they're like, no, I feel I owe them, and they're like, are you kidding? I could never pay you back. And I don't mean to keep score like that, but it's just like, I forget that I used to help everybody. I mean, that's how nothing it was to me. So when they're helping me, it's like I'm starting to go, God, I'm getting all this help all the time. So I've started to keep score more, but I don't really. I mean, I feel it more. And that's, like I said, that's been a big hurdle, is accepting help and letting people help me because they want to help.
Yeah.
And I almost get a little weepy, kind of emotional when it comes to that.
Well, yeah, and because it's such a precious thing to receive that help and to know that others really want to give, that makes them feel good. Well, you seem to be really coping very well with your diagnosis, and do you have any tips for maybe anyone who's listening out there? If they're a person diagnosed or a family member, what kind of tips would you give people?
I guess for me, and I mean, it took me a year, I think, to get this figured out, but it's that, I guess, trusting the other people, your family and friends around you and what they're seeing, and letting go a little bit. That's to just really, really trust your spouse. I mean, I guess, I hope everyone with their spouse would have that kind of thing. But even when you have a great relationship, in that, to just trust that they're doing things in your best interests. And I mean, it doesn't mean you don't fight for what you feel a little bit, or express what your desires or your visions are, but to trust them that they're not acting out of greed, spite, control, but they're acting out of love. And I guess that would be my biggest thing, is realizing that, because it does feel, when all those things are falling away that you used to do, that they're controlling you, and they're not. They're trying to help you, and you're interpreting it as control.
Yeah,
I guess that I don't know how to say it any other way.
No, that's really great advice. It's well, one of the sayings that we have too with dementia is, when you've met one person with dementia, you've met one. Same with care partners and environments. But so many times, if a person with dementia does something that maybe a care partner or a friend doesn't understand, they're like, "Oh, they're just pushing my buttons." They're just, and it's like, no, it's not planned. That's not what it is. And same with a care partner. They just, are trying to do the very best and try to make your life as simple. And sometimes we make the mistake of taking too much away
Right.
not in removing purpose. And so, and that's a tightrope, you know, and it's one
Right.
of those things that you have to be able to honestly communicate about.
I think you hit it right on. My wife is constantly saying, I mean, the tightrope is a great way to say it, because I'm a lot more short-sighted than I used to be. So I get fixated on something and an idea and a plan or something, and I want to go with it and move. And like I said, I want to move fast. And she's able to now, and I'm able to be a little more trusting and stuff, to see that along and accepting of that. It's not just me, it's her, it's us. You know, so that's how I cope with it and then deal with that. And she's always trying to help, and she is thinking about me. And sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the things she's doing, just out of the love and care and to make my life easier.
Yep. Yep.
It's like, well, why are you being so nice? I'm not used to this. Why do you do that? Why are you letting me do this? I don't.
So that's how sweet is that? You know,
Yeah.
not everybody has
Yep.
that. You're awful lucky that you guys are working through this together and really
Right.
are approaching this as a team and have respect for where the other one is coming from, and just say, okay, let's maybe we both put our ideas on hold and we come back together, you know, in a little bit and look at this again. It's a process, and it'll be, you know, it'll ever be evolving. That's what I learned on my 30-year journey. It was no 2 days were the same, and I learned a lot of beautiful lessons along the way that I wouldn't have learned without dementia in our lives, and so I had to focus on that.
We really, since the past 6 months or so, we have really hit a much better groove. There's still bumps, but we're really in a good. I feel. You maybe want to talk to her, but I feel we're in a good groove, and I'm settling into a comfortable life pattern and everything, and that's really good. And I guess it's only been a year and a half since diagnosis. So all in all, as I look back and I think about it, you know, I think we're doing pretty well, and I'm comfortable. And though it's been rough, we've endured that first rough year, and I think we're gonna do well.
Good.
I'm happy.
Well, David, I can't thank you for taking the time to share, you know, with us your insights and your journey. These stories are so important to others. It just brings people so much more comfort, and you know, the wisdom that you shared will be heard by many. So thank you. Now, is it okay to give out an email address for you?
You know, I'm comfortable with that. I'm not the best at, you know, typing isn't one of my really high good skills, so I'll do my best to answer back or give them something, and if it's okay, I mean, sometimes I might be able to say there's not much I can do or I can't help, but I'll always be open to that. So yeah, you know, this is a little new for me, but I'm you know, I'm ready to go down at least a road. Maybe I can be a little more helpful.
Okay, so David's email is weatherford4 at AOL.com, and we'll go ahead and put that in on our information, so it'll be on the radio page and the YouTube channel and the blog as well, so people can.
I think I'm one of the last 10 that still have an AOL address there. That's what people have called me before.
Well, thank you again so much. And for our listeners, you know, please feel free to share this with others. I think David, you know, just put into words beautifully how his journey has gone, and I know it will help others as well. And always feel free to go to alzheimerspeaks.com for further information. And maybe, just maybe, you should be our next guest. So reach out to me if you've got a story to share, or a service or a product or tool that can help others. Bye for now.